Today on The Hookup, I'm going to take you on a tour of my extensive smart home setup and rank each of my improvements on a tier list to help you spend your money wisely when it comes to smart home projects. Having a YouTube channel devoted to smart home tech pretty much gives me a free pass to test out any new smart home product as it comes available. Sometimes the results are revolutionary, but occasionally they turn out to be a massive waste of time, money, and energy. As I give you the grand tour of my smart home, I'm going to rank each product or project on a tier list with S tier at the top, meaning products that every smart home should have, and F tier at the bottom, which are the pieces of technology that are ultimately pretty worthless and in some cases cause more problems than they fix. This video was sponsored by Litum Solar LED Outdoor Lights. Their newest product, the 30 LED Landscape Spotlight, has adjustable brightness and color temperature. 4 selectable modes give either low brightness cool white, high brightness cool white, low brightness warm white, or high brightness warm white. In a sunny area, the adjustable solar panel will fully charge the battery to give you 12 hours of runtime on low brightness or 6 hours on high brightness. The 2-light kit comes with everything that you need to mount your solar spotlights on the ground or on the wall in a matter of minutes, not hours. Check out the Litum Solar Spotlights from the link down in the description. All right, 100,000 subscribers, that's pretty crazy. Let's go see my house. Welcome to my front yard, where you're going to find the flashiest thing on my house: permanently installed RGB LED strips lining the eaves of the roof. The LED strips are mounted in aluminum channels that blend in perfectly with the rest of the roof line and help protect the strips from the floor to sun. My strips have been installed since 2017 and are holding up really well. And even though the waterproof coating inside has yellowed significantly, the lights are still fully functional and the color accuracy hasn't been noticeably affected. I know this isn't necessarily a smart home project, but it's fun to be able to turn on different effects for different holidays that you don't traditionally decorate for. On my tier list, I'd put year-round LEDs in the low C tier, because the cost is high, the impact on your daily life is low, but the fun factor is definitely there. Moving towards the front door, you'll notice a few security cameras. I've got a total of 9 hardwired IP security cameras that record 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at low resolution. And then I use AI computer vision to detect people and other objects in the video and trigger full resolution recording. Not only do these security cameras give me peace of mind knowing that my property is always under surveillance, but they're extremely useful for keeping track of kids while they play outside, spotting delivery drivers, or just generally giving vision of parts of the property that you don't normally go to. When I think of technology in my home, security cameras are absolutely in the S tier on my list, and are a product that I would recommend to anyone and everyone. Having multiple wired cameras and an extensive setup is obviously a little bit better, but battery-powered camera technology has also come a long way. And even though I have a wired camera pointing directly at my front door, I still use the Eufy battery-powered video doorbell to enable two-way talk. I also use a Kwikset Z-Wave smart door lock that's one of my wife's favorite smart home additions. The downside of these things is that you need to change the batteries every 4 to 6 months, but that'll hopefully be solved soon with all the wireless power technology that was being shown off at CES this year. Right through the front door is my dining room, and on the wall is a big bank of switches that barely ever get touched. Behind the panel are 2 Shelly 2.5 smart relay modules that turn the traditional light switches into smart switches. Even though smart switches and lights are the first things that people think about when someone says smart home, I'm going to put switches solidly into the B tier. When you install a smart switch, you should already have an idea about how its use is going to be automated and how it's going to add additional functionality, save you time and/or money. The dining room is also where my Ecovacs D-Bot 950 robotic vacuum lives, out of sight and out of mind. Every night, the D-Bot methodically vacuums the first floor of my house, and it only requires my attention about once a week to quickly empty the bin. Robotic vacuums are another thing that I would absolutely put into the S tier of home automation. There are unfortunate limitations that may prevent a robotic vacuum from being effective in your house, but for most people, they provide a massive increase in the cleanliness of your home without very much effort on your part. The fish tanks are also automated in this room, but I'm just going to throw that in with smart switches because it's more or less a set it and forget it kind of thing. The last thing to see in my dining room is the first of my Amazon Echo whole home audio setups. Using speaker groups in the Amazon Echo app allows you to set up synchronized whole home audio using almost any Echo device. In my case, I'm recycling some 20-year-old computer speakers that I got in college and giving them new life by connecting them to an Amazon Echo Dot. I'll talk about voice assistants later in the video because, as you can see, the microphone on this device stays muted 100% of the time. But I think that whole home audio deserves to be in the low A tier. If your family listens to a lot of music and already has multiple smart speakers, take some time and set up different speaker groups. This kind of whole home audio was insanely expensive as little as 5 years ago, but now comes with every single smart speaker and every voice assistant on the market. Moving into the kitchen, we've got a bunch more smart switches and lights, but in particular, I'd like to point out the smart dimmer. Because unlike a smart switch, a dimmer can be usefully automated even if you still manually interact with it the majority of the time. This dimmer, along with all the other dimmers on the first floor, automatically change their initial turn-on brightness throughout the day. You can of course manually override those settings using the paddle on the switch, but the vast majority of the time it provides exactly the amount of light you want with just the click of a button. Even though smart switches were in the B tier, I'm going to put smart dimmers into the A tier because the potential to add increased functionality through automation is significantly higher than a standard switch. In the pantry, I've got what I guess you would call a smart trash can, which is really just a motorized hands-free cover. The trash can works pretty well if you load it up with 4 C batteries, but I didn't want to have to change the batteries on my trash can, so I bought the $12 official AC adapter, which basically doesn't work at all and introduced enough noise into the circuit that sometimes the infrared sensor doesn't work and you have to manually press the open and close buttons, which kind of defeats the purpose. Smart trash can goes in the D tier. Great idea, poor execution. The only other smart device in the kitchen is a first-generation Echo Show that acts as the main voice assistant for the first floor. In the Echo app, we have it set up to use the first floor speaker group for music playback, meaning you don't have to say anything special to get it to play music on the entire first floor. Voice assistants are a pretty difficult piece of tech to rank, since they're basically just music playback devices if you don't already have a bunch of smart devices in your house. That being said, for me and my family, they are the most common way that we interact with our home. If we need to change the brightness of a light, close the curtains, or turn on the TV, we're probably going to use an Echo command to do it. I'm going to put them solidly in the A tier, but be aware that their value is largely based on how many other smart devices you have in your home. And of course, also be aware that privacy is a concern, since the 3 big names in voice assistants also happen to be the 3 biggest data brokers out there. Right next to the kitchen is my desk area where I write and edit all of my YouTube videos. I've got some fun stuff in my desk that I custom built for the space, including a USB hub for my computer, outlets with USB charging, and 5 buttons that I can use with Home Assistant to control the lights around my desk. Under the desk is my computer and networking equipment. Coming up next month, I will be releasing a video about upgrading from a UniFi USG to the UniFi Dream Machine Pro, but as you can see, I haven't done it yet. You may not think of your home network as part of your smart home, but it's actually one of the most important things when you consider connectivity and security. I've got a whole series of videos on building and setting up the ultimate smart network to use with a smart home. Consistent, secure Wi-Fi is easily in the B tier and should be a major consideration for anyone building a smart home. My desk area also has the first automated window coverings in the house. A ZemiSmart blinds driver that closes the curtains. Reflections off the sliding glass door cause problems with the HTC Vive virtual reality trackers. So asking the Echo to turn on virtual reality flips a smart switch to turn on the VR lighthouses and shuts the curtains. These curtains really only get shut for VR, so automating them is a little bit silly, but other blinds and curtains get opened and closed daily, and for those, the convenience of motorization is huge. I would definitely put the automation of routinely open and closed curtains into the high B tier of home automation. It's not something that needs to be in every house, but if you're looking for a fun project that's absolutely going to have a positive impact on your life, window coverings are a really great project. Heading out to the patio, you're going to have to pardon my dust since I'm in the middle of a major construction project. But a few of my favorite things are out here. Motorized roller shades provide some relief from the late day sun that blasts the patio, and even though the stepper motors that drive these shades aren't outdoor rated, they're still going strong after 3 years and have even survived a hurricane. The pool is also automated with Amazon Echo and responds to commands like turn on the hot tub or turn on the pool light. My daughter and her friends get a surprising amount of use out of those functionalities. And it's both inexpensive and pretty simple. So I'll put pool automation in the B tier, assuming you already have an electronic pool controller. And a pool, of course. Landscape lighting using LED strips was a project that I just kind of attempted on a whim, but it turned out to be amazing, at least from my view. We have a large concrete wall and palm tree stand behind our screen pool, so it's not an issue at all, but if you had rear neighbors, I could see how they would be very annoyed looking at it from the opposite direction. RGB landscape lighting gets more use than holiday lighting, and it looks great, so I think it belongs somewhere at the bottom of B tier. I'd definitely recommend it. Back inside to the family room, where both the LG TV and Samsung soundbar have internet connectivity and HDMI CEC control, which allow me to control both of these with automations. That means that unlike my previous setup where I had to use a Logitech Harmony Universal Remote, I can use the remote that came with the LG TV to control everything when combined with Home Assistant automations. The lighting in the family room is also super customizable with individual zones and dimming, but one of my favorite hacks is this extension cord with a Shelly dimmer built in. Using this one dimmer, I can set the brightness of the uplights behind the TV and the 2 lamps on my daughter's desk. And just like the kitchen dimmer, these automatically adjust their brightness based on the time of day and are tied to a switch on the wall that's not physically connected to them. Both downstairs and upstairs, our climate is controlled by Ecobee 3 connected thermostats, which I've always been a little bit underwhelmed with. The major selling point of these thermostats is that they can sense when you're away and adjust the temperature to save you money on your heating and cooling bill. And after talking it over with my wife, we decided that we'd rather pay a few extra bucks each year and come home to a comfortably cooled house. For me, smart thermostats go really low in the C tier. If you've already got a programmable thermostat and you've got 200 bucks to spend on your smart home, you're much better off spending it somewhere else. The last thing in this room is not something that I would call smart, but it appeals to the gadget lover in me. Our couch reclines with motors. And before you say, that's totally worthless, a single handle does the job faster and without power, you're not wrong. But the main advantage of a motorized couch is complete control and the ability to independently adjust the headrest and footrest for each person. My wife initially wanted me to automate these, but after looking at the mechanism driving it, I decided it was a pretty bad plan, since the beefy linear actuators could easily crush bones if they got caught in it during the closing process. Motorized couch, C tier for sure. In the guest room / playroom / wife's office, the blinds open and close each morning and night. Before they were automated, we just kept them closed since the privacy is an issue in that location, but it's nice to get some extra light in the room during the day. There's also some RGB LEDs above the Murphy bed and a Wi-Fi access point. Nothing else too exciting in this room. Out to the garage. The most impactful project in here was a smart garage door, which was actually my first DIY home automation project. A relay lets you virtually press the open or close button on the main unit to operate the door. And a simple reed switch uses a magnet to detect whether the garage door is open, which eliminates the doubt of whether or not you forgot to close the garage door. Garage door automation is super useful, really cheap, and really easy to do. I definitely put it in the A tier, and it is a great place to start for anyone who wants to do something a little bit more advanced than changing a light bulb. Alright, so you know your garage door is closed. Did you leave the stove on? Well, you could theoretically rely on the Sense energy monitor to set your mind at ease, but it probably won't work. Resting comfortably in the F tier is the $299 Sense energy monitor installed in my main electrical panel. According to the documentation of the Sense, it should continue to discover devices the longer it's connected. But in the 10 months that I've had it, it's only found 13 devices. And aside from the garage refrigerator and the kitchen ice dispenser, it detects devices extremely inaccurately. The garage also has another recycled old stereo and an echo input that participate in whole home audio. And yes, that is a subwoofer mounted to the wall. Also in this wall are the power supplies for my house LEDs and my SkyDrop smart sprinkler system. Smart sprinklers have two huge advantages over their non-connected counterparts. First, instead of using a rain sensor to skip unnecessary watering after a rainstorm, they can use local weather forecasts to skip waterings before a large storm. Second, they make the process of checking and adjusting your sprinklers infinitely easier because you can turn zones on and off easily via the phone app. Smart sprinklers are an A tier for sure, but I'm not sure I would specifically recommend SkyDrop since I get the feeling they're going to go out of business pretty soon. Ratio seems to be doing really well, and they offer integrations with Home Assistant, SmartThings, and even IFT. The garage lighting is also hilariously bright. When my single builder's grade fluorescent fixture burned out, I decided to get myself an upgrade, so I researched on YouTube and it seemed like all the hot rod channels seemed pretty happy with their Barina LED fixtures. I picked up a set of 12 for 80 bucks, and I didn't really think about how bright 12 20-watt 6500K LEDs would be. With all the lights on, you could easily fool someone into thinking they were standing outside in direct sunlight. So to prevent myself from going blind, I installed them in banks using a Shelly 1, where I have two always-on lights controlled by the light switch for normal usage, and then an echo command to turn on the other 10 lights if I'm working in the garage. Alright, back inside and upstairs. All the upstairs doors have magnetic door sensors, which I absolutely love. We use the sensor on my daughter's door to know if she comes out of a room looking for us at night. When my daughter was about 4 years old, she got really sick at night, and my wife and I were sitting out on the patio. When we finally came inside, we had a crying daughter sitting in a bathroom that looked like a scene from The Exorcist. A simple automation triggered by her bedroom door opening after bedtime flashes the lights on the patio and the garage and should prevent something like that from ever happening again. Door sensors are an absolute must for me as a parent, and if you've got kids under 10, I would put this in the high B tier. If you don't have kids, I'd say it's probably significantly lower. In my daughter's room, she's got fancy underbed LED lighting using a Shelly RGBW2 and nanoleaf panels on the wall. These are fun and fitting for a kid's room, but might be a little bit tacky in adult living spaces. I think low C tier is appropriate for indoor LED RGB effect lighting. I'm also using a Shelly 2.5 and a Shelly 1 behind her switches to tie her underbed LEDs and her nanoleaf together. It has a little automation so that if you turn on the main lights first, the LEDs will come on as a warm white color. But if you turn on the LEDs first, they'll come on with colors and effects. This is another example of how smart switches are moving up closer to the A tier because they let you tie in a bunch of devices together and switch devices that aren't physically connected to each other in the same electrical circuit. The studio / home gym / kids guest room has some smart switches and dimmers that tie the ceiling fan light to the LEDs that are above the Murphy bed and the shelving unit. But that's about it. In my daughter's bathroom, the only smart device is a Bluetooth shower light speaker connected to an Amazon Echo Flex so she can listen to music in the shower. Next is the master bedroom where the second robotic vacuum lives. This one is a Roborock S5 that cleans the upstairs once a day, but it doesn't start unless the house is empty. I'm using the Home Assistant integration to tie the start command to our occupancy sensor, which works perfectly as long as you're not quarantined in your house. Robotic vacuums are still definitely in the S tier for me. I think everyone should have them, not just smart home enthusiasts. On to my favorite project in the whole house. We've got 3 windows that span most of the wall, so I installed a wooden valance that goes from wall to wall. Behind that valance is an automated curtain rod from ZemiSmart and 3 of my DIY automated blinds motors, so I can say, block out the sun and close all the blinds and curtains at once. As lazy as it sounds, the truth is that before we automated these window coverings, we just left them closed most of the time. Also behind the valance is a strip of SK6812 RGBW LEDs that have an awesome trick up their sleeve. Not only do they provide high quality warm white light for everyday use, but an automation tied to Google Calendar wakes me up on work days to a beautiful 20-minute artificial sunrise. Of all the LED projects in my house, this one is definitely my favorite, and it has the most positive impact on my life. If you have to wake up before the sun actually rises, I'd highly recommend getting an artificial sunrise solution. This one definitely goes to the top of B tier because it's an LED project that can be used in multiple ways every day of the week. The last room in the house is the master bathroom. In this room, we've got a Shelly H&T sensor that detects high humidity to turn on the shower exhaust fan, and a really high quality shower speaker called the Juno AI with Amazon Echo built in. If the Juno AI had better firmware, it would be much higher in my tier list, but it's got some issues. As much as I love and use my Juno AI, it needs to go into the C tier. Like I said, even though we use it every day, it needs a little bit more improvement to justify its price tag. And that's it, that's my house. Maybe it's not as flashy as some of the other smart home tours, but I like to focus on functionality. I'm sure I forgot a lot of stuff, but this video is already way too long. If you made it this far, hit that thumbs up button so the video gets suggested to other smart home lovers. Thank you to all of my awesome patrons over at Patreon for your continued support of my channel. If you're interested in supporting my channel, please check out the links down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching The Hookup.